May I have your attention, please? The following information is highly spooky and may prove dangerous to certain individuals with high blood pressure, low blood sugar, or poor bladder control. It should be taken in small amounts and followed with periods of sleep. If unusual symptoms occur, please contact a physician immediately. You need not contact a lawyer because Minecraft characters can't be sued.
Yeah, this is scary.
Alright, you go first.
Why? So your story will be fresher in our minds at the end, therefore scarier? You fool! I saw right through your evil plan.
Okay. I'll go first.
No! Then you'll scare us so much we can't stay in here to hear my story.
Are you saying my stories are scary?
I'm going first. Once, there was a boy who went to school, where he learned things his teachers were 73% sure would help him in life. Then one day, the boy saw a giant donut. Wow, that's a big donut, he thought, and he left school to go eat it. All of a sudden, it started rolling. He chased after it. He chased after it for days and days and days and minutes and days and 3.5 seconds. When all of a sudden, it turned around and said to him, "You should have stayed in school!" and ate him. Ate him!
Are giant donuts real?
Not if you stay in school.
Okay, time for my story. One cold winter night, a 16-year-old girl named Brittany was home alone watching TV. Her parents had gone out to a dinner party at a friend's house. It had been snowing heavily all afternoon, but Brittany felt nice and snug as she sat on the sofa in the lounge, tucked under a warm, fuzzy blanket. By midnight, Brittany's parents were still not home, and she began to feel uneasy. She didn't want to call them in case they thought she couldn't take care of herself. The television was in the corner of the room, right next to the big bay window. She was watching one of her favorite movies, a horror movie named Prom Night, when suddenly, out of the corner of her eye, she noticed something moving in the bay window. Through the darkness and the falling snow, she could make out the figure of a man walking towards the window. As he got closer, she was able to make out his face, and it filled her with horror. The man's face was hideously scarred, his eyes were wild and crazy, and he seemed to be grinning maliciously at her. Frightened, Brittany pulled the fuzzy blanket over her eyes and tried to hide. She hardly dared to move. Slowly, she pulled the blanket aside just enough to peer out with one eye. The man was still there. He was standing there, staring directly at her as the snow fell behind him. Then he reached into his coat and pulled something out. It was a long knife. Terrified, Brittany pulled the blanket back over her head and hoped the madman would think it was just a pile of blankets sitting on the sofa. She managed to move her hand slowly over to her pocket, took out her cell phone. Pressing the buttons in a panic, she dialed 911 and held her breath as she waited for an answer. When the operator asked, "What is your emergency?" Brittany put the phone close to her face and whispered, "There is a man outside my window. He's got a knife. Please come quickly." She sat motionless under the blanket as the minutes ticked by. Eventually, she heard sirens outside and the police started banging on the front door. Brittany pulled the blankets off and rushed to the front door, letting the two police officers inside. They said they had seen no trace of anyone outside her house. "He was right there," said Brittany, pointing out the bay window to her snow-covered front lawn. "That's not possible," said the female officer. "There couldn't have been anyone standing out there. The snow is completely undisturbed. If there was someone out there, they would have left footprints." "But he was standing right out there, staring at me," Brittany insisted. "I saw him with my own 2 eyes." "You know, your eyes can play tricks on you," said the male officer. "Maybe you've been watching too many scary movies." The officers turned to leave when all of a sudden the female officer stopped dead in her tracks. She pulled the sofa back that Brittany had been sitting on. Her jaw dropped, her eyes widened in shock, and the male officer and Brittany gasped. On the carpet behind the sofa, there was a trail of wet footprints and a discarded knife. You weren't looking at the man outside the window, said the female officer. You were looking at his reflection. He was standing right behind you all along.
My story had a giant donut. Did yours?
No,
That's what I thought.
Hey, what's this?
Is it spooky?
No, it's some kind of a book.
Is it a spooky book?
You think this cave is scary? Try the ghost town at -315, 68, -154.
Spookiness, here we come!
As she walks,